especially in a party system, used in responding to the needs of the people in the provision of social services and other values of life for national development. Moment for thoughts on political ideology and the Buhari administration's development agenda. Malam Dauda Birma, a former Minister of the Federal Republic, Education. Malam Dauda Birma is an astute politician and a one-time presidential aspirant. He is an officer of the Order of the Federal Republic, OFR. Dr. Padi Njoku is a former university don and a successful economy operator, a chartered mediator and conciliator. Dr. Njoku is the Director General of the International Institute of Leadership and Governance. And I am Aliyu Baba Barrow. You're welcome. You're welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Aliyu.
Madam Dauda Birma, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. I remember people, maybe in our school days, we talk about Marxism, socialism, issues of democracy, the ideals of nationhood and political governance. And they say politics is a platform for reconciliation of interest. Let me start from this scholastic point of view and also as political observer and commentator on public affairs, Dr. Njoku. Let me leave the politician alone first. How do you observe the issue of ideology that people have been talking about, and perhaps some, use it as a canopy in order to bring one or two issues or an argument amongst them, political sagacity and what have you. And they say the politicians, Nigerians are tired to the tooth with the shenanigans and the peccadillos of the political elite. What are the needs of people, in a group of people in Nigeria? Every nation has its peculiar needs. Africa, for instance. Ideology and the needs of the people and the response from the political environment.
Thank you very much, Aliyu, and thank you, NTA, for bringing this issue up at this time, at this time of massive political defections that seem to shock the polity and the people of Nigeria. It's appropriate that you brought up this issue now. The question of practicing modern politics without what goes with it elsewhere, which is ideology. As in your intro, you talked about socialism, capitalism. Some people have gone to the extent of also including welfarism and others talk about progressive politics. Unfortunately, because of the way our own politics evolved here after the military intervention, we seem not to have done a proper work of establishing parties on the basis of political ideologies. So everybody found it necessary to pour in. Even the military themselves just went and changed their addresses and came back. And nobody defined what was the interest that they were going to defend for the people of Nigeria. And I saw this coming. I saw what is coming now, what is happening now coming. Because as long as we couldn't define why we were where we were, we could very easily jump to the other side, because we also saw that we were not different from the other side. So I think it's something that is not altogether negative in our political development, in the sense that we can now, after this experience, sit back to define parties. We passed the not too young to run bill. So anybody there feels that once we are young, we are qualified. Whereas we are not asking those youths what they think about life. They seem to see a political divide between being young and being old, and not between being progressive and retrogressive, not between being capitalist or socialist or welfarist. So I think we are at a stage, a critical stage in the political development of this country when, after this experience we're having now, we can go back to say, please, can you define yourself properly?
Yes.
So that you don't roam around and come back and say, this is my great party, when yesterday that party was not great, simply because you were not there.
All right, beyond the maxims of capitalism, socialism, and what have you, beyond the academics as a politician and the needs of the people, when you talk about the principle of social contract, which is encapsulated in Chapter 23 of the Constitution, fundamental objectives and directive principle of state policy, how do you equate it with the issue of, really, these are the needs of the people, they have their own peculiar needs as a nation. How do you address this as a politician beyond the issue of ideology and what?
I really haven't subscribed to the existence of ideology in the thinking of Nigerians. We have subscribed to primordial sentiments.
Yes.
Am I a northerner? Am I a southerner? Am I an Igbo? Am I Yoruba? Am I, Hausa Fulani and things like that? And we evolved. The only moment when you can say there was ideology, I would say, as a northerner, that in the 50s, 60s, there was an ideology between the NPC, that was from the ruling class, the anointed, the appointed, those associated with rulership, and then there was NEPU, which was Northern Elements Progressive Union, where only the downtrodden, the Talakawa, belonged to it, and they were saying, to hell with it, let us assault the citadel of the rich and the powerful, and that was clearly a situation in which there was a division between those who were wealthy, powerful, anointed, and those who were at the bottom and who were saying, we must pull down these people. And if you go to a place like Borno, where I grew up, there was the NPC, which was, also just as I've described. Then Borno Youth Movement came. Borno Youth Movement was brought up by somebody who is supposed to be one of the wealthy, the powerful, but he went to the downtrodden and said, this is Borno Youth Movement. And overnight, it became popular, and that was the so-called conservatives and things like that. They have such brilliant iconoclastic ideas, you wonder, what are they doing there? Because they are not supposed to be there. So now we have politics of identification. If you think belonging to this party serves the interest of your state or your region or your religion and things like that, we're becoming polarized on things which have nothing to do with ideology. And therefore, I think we downplay ideology. Because if you read what political parties tell you they are going to see, you see it's like carbon copy of what the other party is talking about. Infrastructure, water, health. Forget the fact that they may not really mean it, but they've got these catchphrases which attract the attention of people. Now, and then when you look at it now, we have President Buhari, who is in APC, who is the leader of the APC, and he has got his own ideological stand fighting corruption. Political parties in Nigeria are not particularly ideologically oriented, but they are looking forward to or promising to deliver what they think the electorate wants.
Yes.
For instance, today, when the Buhari administration talks of infrastructure, I travel a lot. And I travel mostly by road. And I see work taking place in various places. So if he says it is the ideology of providing infrastructure, I am on the same page with him because I can see that infrastructure is being provided, people are being brought. But it is not a question of ideologically driven motives or trajectory, where people will say that because we are socialist inclined, we are doing this and thing. And then if you even look at it on the global scale, where is communism today? Where is Marxism today? Where is the conservative theory? They've all gone into a melting pot, and therefore you see streaks in the whole picture. But you don't see a complete ideological identification of this is ideologically driven and it is done so as because in neo-socialism and so. Then you look at China, for instance, now. China boasted its ideological purity in Marxism. But when it discovered that that was not going to take it anywhere, and it had a lot of hungry, angry people, it shifted. And then it moved towards the direction of capitalism. And today, China, if you sort of strip off the fine veneer at the top, is as capitalist as anything.
Yes.
And then if you go to Russia now, you have young Russians who are, the progeny of, Marxist leaders and things like that, taking words of money, throwing at the window. What even the bourgeois did not do during the heyday of the bourgeois. Yes. Therefore, I think when we are talking of Nigerian political system and political thinking, we better downplay the issue of ideology. We sort of bring to the fore the issue of providing the needs of the people and socializing the grassroots so that they know their rights, they know what they want, and they get what they want society to provide.
Yes.
But ideology, no.
Oh, yes. Well, actually, when you talk about the president, that was when he was a military head of state. He was fighting corruption. And when he comes back, he said, it's the same thing. I remember at one time at an interview with late President Nelson Mandela, he says, any person who changes his principles and ideals, depending on whom he is dealing with, is not fit to be a leader for the nation. And Buhari has consistently continued with his ideals and principles. In the global community, as you said, has now beckoned at him all the time. Africa, everywhere. And again, you say some of the followership perhaps could not have the same thing under the banner of ideology. But practicality of things, and you say you go with him when you're talking about infrastructure development because the need of the people. So now, do we say the needs of the people, Chief, leads ideology or principles with which a political party or a government should lead its people? Because the Constitution itself, when it said the Constitution is supreme, and its provisions shall have binding force and all authorities and person in the Federal Republic. The same Constitution says sovereignty belongs to the people. Are we talking about that?
Yes, I'm happy you also brought up this aspect. We cannot practice ideology for ideology's sake. Ideology must respond to the needs of the people, to the progress of the people, to where you want to take the people to. It is a set of ideas that address the challenges of the polity, of the people, and then takes them to the next level of progress.
Yes.
Unfortunately for us, the present president came during his first outing in 1983, 84, 85 to fight corruption. The man who took over from him came to fight corruption. And the president is back now to fight corruption. And every other one before him had been fighting corruption. And corruption is still there to be fought. It sets me thinking whether fighting corruption should be an ideology or a duty, natural duty. Because three of us here, we all heads of families. We don't make it a capital responsibility in our families to catch thieves and punish them. We make it rather a duty that is normal. That if our child behaves like this, it's no longer a euphemism to describe something that is more heinous. We call it corruption, and then I think people tend to get away with it. We should call a spade a spade. Our villages, our communities don't accept thieves. And thieves must be treated as thieves. But beyond that, when we are talking about ideology, it's a set of beliefs, a set of ideas that we put together to advance our country. our nation. Unfortunately, we've not been advancing as far as corruption is concerned, because every regime has been making it a prime objective. And it seems that we have now accepted it as a fact of life, which has to be there and which has to be fought. We must go even a step beyond that to inculcate in every Nigerian the fact that what you call corruption is stealing.
Yes.
And cannot be accepted, cannot be tolerated. And it's not a question of you being smarter than the law.
Yeah, we have a man who called one. Dr. Padi Joko, who relates with these people very well, because you are always beckoned at times of needs.
That's true.
In other words, Habinja of glad tidings. And we have the Wazir Ngarkida and Sarkin Gabas Adamawa.
Yes.
What I mean by that is that you understand the needs of the people, peculiarity of Nigeria's needs, and the response of government, especially of today, beyond ideology. You spoke about, infrastructure is there, resuscitating agriculture and what have you. What of the other sections of governance, the institutions of governance, executive, legislature, and the judiciary, and of course the 3 tiers of government? How do we work together? How does the government work together? Not only the federal government, yes.
You see, there's tremendous polarization based on certain things that had happened and based on certain individuals that have been elected. Now, I am sorry to say, prime actors in the legislative houses sometimes do not remember the fact that they represent small enclaves in the larger Nigerian polity. We have to get our act in order so as to harmonize our ideas and things like that, so that we have streamlined interrelationship between the executive and the legislature. We're not talking of the judiciary. The judiciary is a separate unit, is sacrosanct, and you don't even have to touch it. You don't even have to talk about them, because they are the referees, and it is not the player who tells the referee what he does.
Yes.
It is the referee who tells the player what he does. He just come back, he looks at his constituency, the poor downtrodden, the wheelbarrow pusher, the orange seller, the sweeper on the road. These are his constituents, and they constitute something like 75% of Nigeria. And therefore he's addressing them. He says, I am going to jail the thieves. That's an ideology now on the table, even if it's ephemeral. And I brought in infrastructure, because the common person, no matter how weak, no matter how poor, gets into a vehicle and he moves and he sees how dilapidated infrastructure is.
Yes.
And even when he takes his telephone, he starts a call, it cuts off. That is infrastructure problem. Because if the infrastructure is working, he will start his call, he'll finish the call, and there will be no interruption.
Yes.
Therefore, when he says infrastructure and he puts in money there, now you can see the money he is putting is totally beyond the scope of his current tenure, because some of these roads are going to be completed in 48 months.
Yes.
In 48 months, this current life of this administration has gone. So he is telling people that I hope to be around for 48 months in the future, and I hope to finish this job.
So that is the fear. The fear is that when you back away, people back away and leave Buhari to continue with the work, you understand? It's only the executive now that pursue, just as you said, when you are trying to balance the situation between the executive and the legislature. And he says the task may be, there's now a national consensus that our chosen route to national development is democracy. To achieve our objectives, we must consciously work the democratic system. Democracy, as we said, just like politics, platform for reconciliation of interests. How do you see the other sections of government, other sections of the institution of governance, state, the local government, and the federal government, and the individuals themselves? How do we go ahead in order really to buttress what the administration is talking about, led by Muhammad Buhari, fighting corruption, infrastructure development, resuscitation of the economy and agriculture? How do we do that in the form of national ideology, if I may put it that way, or national stride towards development? Yes, just in the short way, yes.
Yes, we must all of us, I think they say we're 180 million now, so appreciate the fact that democracy and democratic governance is a tricycle. It's a keke napep, walking on 3 wheels.
Yes.
If one of the wheels is punctured, the machinery becomes dysfunctional. No one arm of government should see itself as the be-all and end-all of governance and democracy. And I think this is something we haven't gotten right yet in our heads at various levels. And that's why you hear that in this state, the court judge a government, gave a judgment, and the state government went contrary to that judgment. It is ridiculing the judiciary before the people, and vice versa. So if we want to move ahead, and if we want to say really what we are running is a democracy, we must get this right. And it affects every other facet.
Yes.
Well, we must know that the system we operate is evolutionary. We are at a certain point, and we are moving. All governance, especially in a developing country such as Nigeria, is work in progress. There is interrelationship, which may be very difficult sometimes. But, you know, we have to sort of agree that we have got somewhere, we're heading up somewhere. If you say democracy and you emphasize democracy in Nigeria, you look at what people are complaining of. But it is still democracy because it's a system of choice. It is not some strong man coming and saying, you must do this, you must select this, and things like that. If the people say, take your money, and doing the bid of the person who has given them money is what they interpret as democracy, so be it, until it evolves and it becomes something else.
Yes.
But I emphasize we are in a work in progress. We are interrelating and we are moving. If you look at what other people have gone through in their stages of development, we are probably shining stars, who are doing particularly well. Because some of the things that have happened in other places, or which are even happening today, are rotten through and through. But we have to be patient. We have to keep on. But the institutions that govern these things must enforce compliance. For instance, you take INEC.
Yes. If
INEC keeps on tidying up its act and moving, as it has done so, then we are approaching the promised land. Yes. And if we can get our security agencies to behave themselves, to eschew the temptation of being players instead of arbiters, then we'll get to some place. Yes. Of late, I read the Nigerian army had said no army personnel should be at a polling station. If there's any, they must be far away to wait for a breakdown of law and order. Yes. But they should not be participants. They should not supervise voting and things like that. Yes. We are moving in the right direction.
Yes, thank you very much for giving Nigeria a pass, Maga. Well, moving in the right direction, especially good democratic ideals that will work for Nigeria. That is what we are talking about. And the beauty of democracy is provides a platform for a range of choice. And just as Mr. President has continually said, that people should elect those that will work for them, from wherever, from whichever kind of platform. But take a look at the individual and the projection of what he wants to do. I think we are getting somewhere, I suppose.
I'm sure.
Well, let's finish this discussion by recalling what the President said. I cannot recall when Nigeria enjoys so much goodwill abroad as now. Nigeria, therefore, has a window of opportunity to fulfill our long-standing potential of pulling ourselves together and realizing our mission as a great nation. We have an opportunity. Let us take it. I think that is the mark. That is the sense of direction that we need to do. We have an opportunity, we take it together. Thank you very much, Dr. Fadi Njoku, for coming.
My pleasure, Leo.
Mylan Dauda Birma, thank you very much for that wonderful contribution. Well, you've heard it all. Well, it's going together and the principle of social contract, the symbiotic relationship between the government and and its people. That is the essence of governance. Thank you very much. I'm Aliyu Bababaro. Goodbye.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Greetings from the National Council for Arts and Culture.
Imagine a station where you access information.
President Buhari at the National Migration Dialogue appreciates international community for its role in tackling issues of illegal migration.
Legislative activities grounded at National Assembly as parliamentary staff begin 4-day warning strike.
Federal High Court sentences former OAU lecturer to 2 years in prison for sexual harassment.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we return to the subject of recharging Lake Chad.
Now, in view of the significance the Lake Chad has on the Nigerian populace, now under the present administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, it's championing the campaign, on recharging of the Lake Chad.
That's right, Ruth. Indeed, it's not just the president himself who has become the principal arrowhead, if you like, of the attempts to recharge Lake Chad. Indeed, other government agencies as well as members of the international community are already being sensitized to the need to get the waters of Lake Chad back to at least formerly normal levels.
Now, this prompted Good Morning Nigeria today to look at issues surrounding the Lake Chad, especially when it has to do with the socio-economic development and security issues around that region. And that's why we beam our searchlight on recharging of the Lake Chad Basin today.
Well, in the first part of our conversation on the program, that's about a couple of weeks ago, we had guests with us here in the Abuja studios as well as from our Maiduguri Network Center. And the guests gave a historical insight into how Lake Chad lost nearly 90% of its waters over the years, and indeed what the causative factors are for that shrinkage.
And if we recall, this also includes the immediate past Minister of State for Environment, Ibrahim Musa Jibril, who was appointed Emir of Nasarawa same day, just some few hours after his appearance on the program.
Well, among other factors, the guests identified climate change, long periods of neglect of the lake, as well as, more importantly, poor water management, as well as damage as some of those factors responsible for the shrinkage of the lake.
And they also agreed that the interbasin transfer is the only way to recharge the lake, as traditional sources cannot work, since about 95% of the water resources of the lake are lost.
All right, so how long will it take to recharge Lake Chad using the interbasin water transfer system? And more importantly, what are the likely sources of funding for this highly capital-intensive project? And what is the level of participation of the member states of the Lake Chad Basin Commission? In other words, how enthusiastic are the other member states, in addition, of course, to Nigeria? These are some of the questions we intend to, again, pose to our set of guests in part 2 of recharging Lake Chad. And by the way, Ruth, the Honorable Minister of Water Resources couldn't join us on that edition because he was still in Poland, where he was attending COP24 meeting, and the president had returned, and the same thing with then Minister of State. We're expecting him to be with us today on the program this morning to provide some further insights into some of the nugget issues pertaining to how to more effectively recharge Lake Chad. It's on that note we'd like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria today. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Ruth Aguele. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are coming to you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority.
As usual, in the course of our program, we have our regular complimentary segments, and these include newspaper review, business, sports, and foreign. But first, let's take the news with Fatima Umar Buba. Hi, Fatima, good morning.
Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Ruth. It's always good to see you, and you're welcome to the news. The federal government has appreciated the international community for its effort in tackling the issues of illegal migration in the country and the world at large. President Muhammadu Buhari also commended the leadership of the National Committee for IDPs, Migrants and Refugees in the country. He noted that Nigeria has made efforts in the fight against illegal migration. The president emphasized the need to sensitize Nigerians on the issues of irregular migration.
Concrete examples of our efforts include evacuation of hundreds of Nigerian migrants from Libya, which was overseen by a delegation of top government officials. The protection-based activities being offered to asylum seekers and refugees in Nigeria, as well as the planned safe and voluntary return of the thousands of Nigerians currently living as asylum seekers in Cameroon through a tripartite agreement between Nigeria, Cameroon, and United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. These are all well thought and out activated that will ensure Nigeria remains a migrant-friendly nation.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has promised his opponents in the forthcoming 2019 elections opportunities he neither had nor enjoyed in the build-up to the last polls that brought him to power. He stated this while exchanging views with the leadership of the United States-based International Republican and Democratic Institute. And the Independent National Electoral Commission is to train 800,000 ad hoc staff for the 2019 general elections. Timothy Yusuf reports that the exercise, which is organized by the Electoral Institute, has already commenced with training of officers from across the country.
And the only direction we are going to move is that direction of success. If you don't plan properly, you can be sure that there is no amount of prayer wherever you do that will ensure success.
We want to start on the right footing, and this is to synergize and work together, and the beginning is for us to understand what our roles are and how we can actually carry them effectively and efficiently.
And legislative activities at the National Assembly was grounded as staff of the parliamentary staff began a 4-day warning strike to press home their demands of implementation of new conditions of service and other outstanding allowances.
What we want between now and tomorrow morning is for the arrears of our consolidated legislative salary structure to be paid. If our people will see a lot of the arrears of the consolidated legislative salary structure, all of us would disperse from this place.
Reports from the Ile-Ife say a former lecturer of the Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU, Professor Richard Akindele, who has been on trial for the alleged sexual harassment, has been sentenced to 2 years in prison. Justice Maureen Oyetenu of the Federal High Court, Osogbo, sentenced the accused after pleading guilty to the account charge level against him. Moving on now, President Muhammadu Buhari is urging Nigerians to continue to pray for him as he sustains efforts at the dismantling national development obstacles towards achieving a greater future for the country. The president was responding to events put together in the honor as he clocks 76 years yesterday.
This is a leader with a very good heart, a leader that selflessly is serving his people, is serving Nigeria.
The president is renewed in his spirit, in his strength, and in his resolve and determination to put this country back to the path of greatness.
When you look at countries that have grown, there has been discipline, there's been a fight against corruption. We need those two things in our country today, and President Buhari is providing that discipline. He's at the forefront of the fight against corruption, and is ensuring that sanity is coming back.
We are all proud as members of the armed forces and security agencies of Nigeria to present a birthday card to him for leading us very well.
I'm impressed with it. They have put a lot of time behind it, and I thank them very much.
I appreciate it very much indeed.
What will Nigerians expect from you going forward?
We will keep reminding Nigerians what we have done, how we made the country, what we are able to do from the time we came in to now with the resources available to us.
And the presidency has directed the Bank of Industry as well as the Nigerian Export-Import Bank to provide affordable working capital to the nation's entertainment industry. The funding is to unlock some of the trapped potentials that abound in the sector for sustainable economic growth. President Buhari was speaking at an audience with members of the Motion Picture Practitioners Association of Nigeria, Northern Nigeria chapter, who visited him.
I'm glad to learn that you refer to yourselves as entertainers and educators. This means you are very much aware of your responsibilities to propagate positive messages to your audience. Let me conclude by assuring you that this administration is fully committed to supporting all sectors that will create jobs for our citizens, while positively impacting our communities.
Well, that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Ruth and Kisley after the break.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime. We bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
My name is Mrs. Ajala Olushola. I'm one of the food vendors for the school, home-grown school feeding. This is where I do my cooking every morning before I take the food to school. I heard of it from the media. It was announced that those who are interested should apply. And I applied for it. I was screened. Then I was chosen to serve. Then the financial aspect of it, I now benefit from it, unlike when I was idle at home. Apart from that, the homegrown school feeding has exposed me to meeting a lot of people. Thereby, my own business as a caterer can now increase, where I'm now connected to a lot of people.
come join us. Mom says we have more than enough.
Wherever you may travel, whoever you will be with, we wish you a supreme Christmas. Be supreme, Nigeria.
The Aerial Assurance Challenge.
Oh, thank you. But what assurance can you give our daughter?
Everything. With the new look Aerial, I can even do the laundry.
Prove it then.
Okay. Let's make this stain even tougher. Now, let's wash the cloth with your detergent and with new look Aerial. Do you believe me now? Aerial, now in a new look pack.
You in the air-conditioned office.